what it is that you would like to go back to, if you could.
If I could go back, I would make it go to Austin with me.
My name is Pamela Koloff, and I wrote Blood Will Tell. I knew that I wanted to write about forensic science and problems with expert testimony, and I knew I needed to find a case that anybody would be interested in, whether or not they were interested in forensic science. So Joe Bryan has been incarcerated now for 32 years. I think the way I knew that I really wanted to do this story, or that this was the right story, was the disconnect between how people who knew him and had lived with him for years and whose children he had taken care of described him versus how he was described in the courtroom. And that's something that I've seen over and over again in wrongful conviction cases, and I think it's really interesting. So the goal of any story I write is both to write a narrative that really pulls you in, but also that has something more there, that it's not just about that one person's case, that it's about something larger. I first got really interested in bloodstain pattern analysis a couple years ago when I went to cover a trial in East Texas. And it was a murder trial, and there was a bloodstain pattern expert testifying for the state and one testifying for the defense. And they had the same exact training, and they had the same exact evidence before them, and they came to two diametrically opposite conclusions. And so I was sitting there in the courtroom and thinking, if this is science, how is it that you can look at the same stuff with the same training and come to two different conclusions? Most of my best ideas come about when I'm really panicked about the state of my current story. And so I was driving around Austin one day and just thinking, how is it that I'll ever understand this particular forensic discipline when I don't have a background in biology or any of these other things that would be helpful? The light bulb moment for me was, well, the expert in this case took a week-long class. I should take a week-long class. And so I went to Yukon, Oklahoma for a week, and I sat at the Yukon, Oklahoma Police Department with a lot of law enforcement, and we took this class together, and I wielded an axe and spattered blood around and wore a Tyvek suit. And it was sort of comical at the same time that it was also very frightening. So everybody in that conference room at that police department who was taking that class with me was going back out into the world thinking of themselves as something of an expert. Just because someone is calling themselves an expert, just because someone has a bunch of impressive sounding credentials, when they testify, you need to dig deeper than that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're right. And so I think we just need to think more critically about what it means to be an expert and what we as journalists should do when we're confronted with that.